So let's talk about the precautions that need to be taken when we're out doing the things we need to do, like shopping for clothes or shopping for groceries. We received quite a number of questions about trying on clothes. And so we've heard stories of shop owners disinfecting clothes or keeping clothes outside after a customer has tried them on. Can we talk a little bit about that? Is there risk there?
There's risk associated with everything in life, even if it's just crossing the street. And as we progress through this epidemic, there will always be a risk. Every time you leave your house, there will be a risk. But what we need to figure out is how we best move forward through the risk. For a lot of these things, it boils down to what can you do and what's common sense. So would I necessarily leave clothes outside a store where they might get stolen? I'm not sure that would be my go-to. But if you have access to a steamer and you're steaming them between clients, does that make sense? It certainly does. That would offer an extra layer of protection. Is it absolutely necessary? No one knows for sure just yet. We've touched earlier on fomite transmission, so that's the transmission of virus through inanimate objects. Clothing certainly could be inanimate objects through which the virus is transmitted. It goes over your head. You never know if the last person wearing it was wearing a mask or wasn't wearing a mask, if they were or weren't sick. But I think a lot of this boils down to an actually bigger principle, which is that right now, unless you need to be doing something, I still wouldn't be doing that thing. And so that things like shopping, and I know that we need to resume our economic development and that we need the business, but if you can order something online at home as opposed to going into a store to try it on, you're not only protecting yourself, you're protecting other people. And I know that's not an option for everyone, but we all do what we can to protect everyone else. Some of us are fortunate and have the capacity to do more to protect each other than others.
Mm-hmm. But Dr. Hill, I mean, we could be talking about another 6 months of this, right? Or 8 months. I mean, is that realistic? 8 months of ordering things online and not going out and basically resuming life as we knew it?
We could be talking about another 2 years, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it is realistic. It's hard and it's challenging. Everyone wants to get back to the old normal, but we're not going to get back to that old normal until we have a vaccine or until we have an effective treatment. Mm-hmm. So we're not the first generation to live through a pandemic. It's happened before a few times. And the way communities get through it is by doing all of these things that we've been talking about. So socially distancing, hand washing, masking when you're out in public, and minimizing the interactions to what's necessary.
Maureen, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about, like you were saying, reducing risk, and is it really necessary to go and buy, the latest top or whatever? And the place that I work, we have a lot of people buying things in bulk, and they are a little apologetic about it, don't judge me kind of thing. And I tell them, we actually prefer you guys to do that because that lessens the frequency of the times that you visit the store, and as opposed to coming every day like some of them do. And it's just as we've been saying, the exposure and the viral load that we're exposed to is, we're in the store sometimes, 8 hours a day, 5 to 8 hours a day, and people come in and out. Some people maybe have the virus, some people do not, but there's a buildup for us. So if we can minimize the amount of people that are coming to the store on a daily basis, then that reduces the risk for us.
Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Muhajarine.
Yeah, no, I just want to, again, take us to some first principles. I think in the first principle really is to minimize the number of people you come into contact with. And in number of places that you might actually be coming into contact with many people. So, I think if you think through those first principles, then you could actually minimize your risk accordingly. And one other thing, though, really in epidemiological sense, not all places, not every community across Canada has the same risk.
So we've talked about the risk of being indoors and the importance of social distancing. So if you had to choose between going on a picnic or sitting on a restaurant patio, and you had to measure that risk, which one is more risky?
Patio.
Patio. But then if you're the only person sitting on the patio.
Yeah, if you're the only person sitting there, then that's different. But believe me, from what I've observed, I've seen some outdoor patios in Toronto lately, and I'm a little shocked. I'm a little
Dr.
shocked.
Hill, does that fall under your don't really do it right now rule?
It does for me, and I feel bad every time I say that because I realize how many people are dependent upon the jobs that come with all of these pleasures that we have, all of these non-essential needs. But when you go to a restaurant, presumably you're planning on eating or drinking, so you're automatically going to take your mask off. And so now you're putting yourself in a scenario where you're not only exposing yourself to risk, but you're potentially also exposing your waiter and the serving staff to risk. Mm-hmm. You're right, on a patio is lower risk than inside a closed restaurant. We know that open air diffuses the virus particles and makes it less likely for you to catch or acquire the disease. But if you don't need to be at a restaurant, I'm thinking this isn't quite the time to be going. I'm a big believer in takeout. You can always go pick up outside and continue to sponsor the industry and the businesses and make sure people maintain their jobs and enjoy the delicious food, but maybe do it in the comfort of your own home where when you take off your mask, it's not a problem.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Which brings us actually to our next question regarding takeout containers. OMG. Do we disinfect a pizza box, for example? Do we open up the pizza box and then wash our hands? Do we eat our pizza with a fork and knife? Opinions on that?
Now we are getting into the fun stuff, really detailed stuff we know about. And this actually reminds me of the first couple of weeks, maybe the first month of the pandemic back in mid-March to mid-April. People, this was the top of the list of things, to worry about. What do we do with all the things we bring from outside into the house? Do we disinfect them?
Right?
Yeah, including groceries, exactly, including the newspaper, including in the letters that the letter carrier might have put in your letterbox, etc. I mean, just a whole array of things. So here's my take on it, and I think that that is, if you can leave these kinds of things that you bring into the house, out in the porch, outside for a day, that's what you should do, and that's what I did. In fact, at the beginning, in the beginning stages of the pandemic, I don't do it anymore. But but we still, if there's something that we're bringing a whole lot of groceries. We don't bring all of them right into the kitchen. We bring the things that needs to go into the fridge, put them in the fridge. But things that actually can stay out in the porch, for a couple of days, we leave it out.
Dr. Hill, do you have any opinions on that? Or
so I'm laughing a little bit at the idea of leaving the food on the porch because you obviously don't live in downtown Toronto where that's just not an option.
When raccoons will carry it away.
Absolutely. So we never really did that in my house, and I'm pretty strict in my house. Like I come in from the hospital and I set up a little cubby where I could strip up my stuff into the wash and run up to shower before I interacted with anyone else in my household. But we never did the thing about disinfecting the groceries. As Nazeem was saying earlier, regional distribution is really important. If I was in New York, maybe I would feel differently about it. But the chances of someone working in the store who handled my groceries having the virus and then transmitting the virus to the package I'm holding, which then survived long enough to get to my house, which when I picked it up was enough of a viral load on my hands to be it's a lot of exponentially smaller and smaller risks. And for my household, I felt that I was comfortable with that. If I had an immune compromised person at home, if I had someone who was recovering from cancer or was on other immunosuppressants, maybe I would have felt differently. We might have been a little bit stricter. With respect to the pizza box, I absolutely agree. Takeout of any kind. The food itself is unlikely to be contaminated, especially if it's cooked. Heat neutralizes most viruses. There's absolutely no difference between picking up the pizza with your hand or picking it up with a fork and knife, because either way it's going into your mouth, which is your mucosal membranes, which is where you are going to catch the virus. So there's zero difference in that. If you're a hand pizza eater, go ahead and enjoy eating your pizza with your hands. But I would open the box, then wash my hands, then eat the pizza. But can I tell you all a secret? It's what we should have been doing anyways, even before the pandemic. Because you never know what's on the outside of the box.
Basic rule of hygiene, right?
Absolutely.
And the one of the last questions in this section, in this category, is long-term care homes, and that's a whole other issue, and it's been quite problematic and horrific during all the implications of COVID-19. But what a lot of our readers wanted to know, they have family in long-term care homes, and they have now just started to go back and visit. So when they bring food in or take things back, for example, if you're bringing your father a book, do you need to disinfect that? If you're taking stuff from the home, to bring home to your house, do you need to disinfect? Like, is there any element of risk there that people should be paying attention to?
So I'll go back to the principles that we were discussing before. A lot of it is dependent on the prevalence or the number of people in a given area that are sick. So if someone in your house has been sick and you're bringing something into a long-term care center, I would definitely suggest either not doing that or sanitizing it first. If you're going into a long-term care center where there is an outbreak or where there are people who are sick, then I would think twice about bringing something home from there. But if you're going into a long-term care center that doesn't have any known cases and there's no one in your household that's sick or has been sick in the last 2 weeks, you probably don't need to go to extreme measures to protect anyone.